This video is about exponents. In exponents, there are two parts to the problem. There's the base, which is this number. This tells us the number we're multiplying. The exponent is this number, 5. It tells us how many times to repeat the base. And in exponents, the relationship is a multiplication one. So to solve this problem, I would repeat the base, I would write the base, and then I'd look at the exponent and it tells me how many times to repeat the base. In this case, it's 5. I'm going to write -3 5 times. To solve the problem, I'm going to start with 2 digits at a time. So underline what you're going to solve, and this is 3 times 3 is 9, and negative times a negative is a positive. I'm going to keep my parentheses to remind me that this is a multiplication problem. So here's 3 times 3 is 9, and again negative times negative is a positive, and I'm left with -3. This is 9 times 9, and this is positive 81 times a -3. So 3 times 81 turns out to be 243. And a positive times a negative is a negative. So my answer to -3 raised to the power of 5 is -243. Let's try the next one. This says -2 to the power of 4. That means I'm going to repeat the base of -2 4 times. I'm going to start with 2 digits at a time. 2 times 2 is 4. Negative times a negative is a positive. 2 times 2 is 4. And again, negative times a negative is a positive. When I multiply 4 times 4, I get 16. And a positive times a positive is a positive. So -2 raised to the power of 4 is positive 16. Now, pause the video and solve this 1.4 raised to the power of 2, or 1.4 squared. And when you're finished, restart the video and look at the solution. Okay, so let's see what you did. 1.4 is our base, and so we're going to repeat that base. And the exponents tells us that we should repeat it twice. So it's 1.4 times 1.4. Or 1 4/10 times 1 4/10. We multiply decimal numbers like we do with whole numbers. Okay, so you could treat this as 14 times 14, and it turns out that it is 196. I count the decimal places. After the decimal point, there's 1 here, there's 1 here. So in total, I should have 2 decimal places after my decimal. So I count 1, 2, and place my decimal point. And so my answer should be positive 1 96/100. Now let's look at how you multiply 1/2 raised to the power of 6. So just as with whole numbers, we look at 1/2 as our base, and we write 1/2. And the exponent 6 tells us how many times we need to multiply 1/2. In this case, it's 6. So I'm going to write 1/2 times 1/2. I'm going to write this 6 times. And when we multiply fractions, we multiply numerator times numerator, that's 1 times 1, and denominator times denominator. So 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4. And again, I'm going to multiply just 2 fractions at a time. So this is 1/4, and 1/2 times 1/2 again is 1/4. And we have this last 1/2 times 1/2, and that is 1/4. Underline these two terms. 1/4 times 1/4. 1 times 1 is 1. 4 times 4 is 16. So I have 1/16 times 1/4. And 1 times 1 is 1. And 16 times 4 turns out to be 64. And so the answer to 1/2 raised to the power of 6 is 1/64. Now pause the video and try 2/3 raised to the power of 3 or 2/3 cubed, and restart the video when you have your solution. Okay, so let's look. 2/3 raised to the power of 3 means 2/3 repeated 3 times, and you're going to multiply all 3 terms. We start with 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, and multiplied by 2/3. Numerator times numerator, 4 times 2 is 8, and 9 times 3 is 27. So 2/3 raised to the power of 3, or 2/3 cubed, is 8/27.